What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. I am your host for today's episode, Young RG, Robert Garcia, as Coach likes to call me. And in today's episode, we are not doing a Lightning Lockdown weekly recap. We are doing a Lightning Lockdown seasonal recap. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be taking a quick overview of the entire season that the Chargers had. Not going to be diving into individual games too much, except the very, very important ones. But just kind of taking an overview look of the entire season, how everything went, where things went wrong, where things were good, the highs, the lows, that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. And let me actually put myself in the correct part. There we go. So first things first, the highs and the lows. Where did we shine? Where did we cry? And there was a lot of that this season, a lot of both. Jesus, I'm fumbling over my words here. A definitely good bit of both for the side of that. And it started off great. Weeks 1 through 3, 3 divisional opponents. We said it before the season started. This is really going to show, how much the Chargers have improved and kind of show what team they will be. And obviously the season started off terribly with Rashawn Slater going down with injury. So we were already down one of our best linemen who we had just given a big contract to, but the Chargers find a way to go 3-0 to start the season. No game bigger than week 1 in Brazil against the Chiefs. Herbert had a magical 3rd and long run to ice that game and really kind of set the course for both of these teams. The first game was very telling as to how these seasons or the seasons were going to go for each of these teams. We know what the Raiders were, so pretty, complete win there and a pretty expected win in my opinion as well. Broncos game was a massive one against really the first big test at defense. Chargers able to come away with a win in that one as Dicker kicks a walk-off field goal and sends the Broncos fans home sad. And then as high as it was for the first 3 weeks, it quickly fell apart. Weeks 4 through 5. Of course, week 4, the loss of Joe Alton. He would come back later in the season. This is the first injury that he suffered this year. But obviously it really kind of set things into a spiral as we lose that game to the Giants in Jackson Dart's first start, and then lose right the week after to Jaden Daniels, another NFC East team. If you we'll get to the games later for the other 2 NFC East teams, but if you would have told me that those were the 2 teams from the NFC East this year we were going to lose to, I would not have believed you. But regardless, they do find a way to kind of bounce back weeks 8 through 10. Complete dominant team wins. Now I'm skipping week 7 here for a reason. I'll come back to it. And in those 3 weeks against the Vikings, the Titans, and the Steelers, Titans game was a little fishy. The offense kind of gifted and special teams gifted about like 14 points there to the Titans. So I would have put complete dominant wins or dominant team wins. However, that game forced me into a different alley. So I just went with complete team wins because in the other 2 games against the Vikings and the Steelers, only allowed 10 points to each of those Steelers, of course, a playoff team. And the Vikings, for as bad as they were during the regular season, in the middle of the season, they really had a strong surge to end their year and actually finished above the Lions in the standings, or in their division, which is crazy to say. Going back over to the week 7 and 11 loss, I had to kind of group these together because these were 2 AFC South teams that we got absolutely crushed by. Obviously, the earlier one against the Colts, this was in week 7. Letting up 38 points there. Jonathan Taylor just ran all over us. And he had another 3 touchdown game for him. Chargers were able to kind of make it somewhat close, making only a 14-point loss, but it was a much bigger blowout than that. A lot of that was garbage time. So can't really put any stock into that. So rough loss there. And then of course, probably the worst loss, not including the playoffs, and we'll get to that. But the worst loss of the regular season was by far to the Jacksonville Jaguars. 35-6, gifting them 3 points there. Regardless, it was a smackdown of epic proportions. They ran all over us with Etienne and Tootin. Trevor Lawrence had his pick, but regardless, he was great besides that. And the Chargers just could not do anything. They ended up pulling Herbert early from that game. It was just a nightmare situation all around. And then, going into the bye with a week 12 bye, like that was a rough loss to, go into the bye week with. We were really questioning, how's this team going to bounce back? How are they going to answer coming out of the bye week? It was a bit of a gauntlet, albeit after week 13, after their first game out of the bye against the Raiders. But the rest of those games were against the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos in that order. And they started off amazing out of the bye, winning 4 straight in that, again, easy win against the Raiders, 31-14. That ridiculous Monday night game between the Eagles and the Chargers. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that game. That was just insane. I mean, the amount of turnovers and 2 turnovers in the same play. I mean, it was just craziness all around. The Chiefs win, which was a very emotional win, not exactly, high scoring or anything like that, but typical AFC West bout. It's so funny, both Chiefs games kind of went different ways. The first one was a little bit more of a shootout. Second one was much more defensive orientated. And obviously, back-to-back weeks there against the Eagles and the Chiefs where we ended on a game-winning interception. So it was just craziness. And, man, they really carried that into the week 16 matchup against the Cowboys, where they put up 34 points. Obviously, Cowboys defense, one of the worst in the league. There's no debating that. We are not trying to victory lap that, but it was nice to see the offense really click for once. And, ultimately, though Greg Roman got fired, it was probably his best game called of the season. So, again, as awful as he was, and we'll get to that, definitely have to give him his credit for the games that he did call well. And we were riding high. 2 weeks left to go in the season, a real shot at winning the division. Perhaps we win the division? Well, week 17 through 18, and then we'll get into 19. Perhaps not. And if you get that reference, shout out you. You're a real one. Obviously, week 17 against the Texans. I was at that game in SoFi, last home game of the season. And, man, the Chargers just, if there was ever a complete team loss, that would be the one. Just horrible plays after horrible plays, missed kicks by Dicker, drop passes turning into interceptions in the red zone. I mean, just awful start, spotting the Texans 14 early points. I mean, there was just so much wrong with that game. And obviously the defense did buck up. The offense kind of came through, kind of didn't. Again, there's just a lot of mistakes on both sides of the ball. And, that was ultimately the end there because, you sit starters in week 18 against the Broncos, basically handing them the 1 seed, setting yourself up for your wild card matchup in Foxborough against the Patriots. And, man, did it go as poorly as ever. This is just about as bad of a nightmare scenario as the Chargers fans were thinking about. Herbert has a terrible game. And yes, look, I get, say what you want about Herbert. I'm not going to sit here and trash the guy. I'm also not going to sit here and glaze him when he doesn't deserve it. There were plays and throws to be made there. I get everything with the O-line. I get him being out of sorts. However, if Justin Herbert is this top 5 quarterback that we all as Chargers fans have been pounding the table all season long, claiming that he is, he needs to produce in the playoffs. I get it. You can look at each individual playoff game and attribute coaching, lack of run game, lack of deep, like whatever you want to say. Herbert needs to perform when it matters most. And that's ultimately the end. Look at the QBs this year in their second year. Caleb Williams willing that team. And I get the coaching and everything, but Caleb Williams, Drake May. I mean, there's Trevor Lawrence has only 1 playoff win, and it's against Herbert. Like there's just so many other quarterbacks. CJ Stroud. I mean, there's just so many other quarterbacks that have playoff success, and you can say whatever you want about their defense carries, their run, this and that, which way. At the end of the day, they have playoff wins, and Herbert doesn't. So, Chargers fans, we're gonna have to eat crow this offseason. And when people talk about Herbert's not a top 10 QB, Herbert's not a top, whatever the argument may be, for whatever we may think at this moment and in this offseason, we're going to have to lick our chops. It is what it is. Obviously, I still believe in him. I still believe that Herbert can one day get this team to and win a Super Bowl. I obviously have never lost faith in that. However, with this season, it really put a lot of things into perspective. And, we'll see about the new OC, and I'll, again, get to that a little bit later. And we'll see about with Minter leaving, how this team responds and how this defense responds. But regardless, Herbert does need to wear and shoulder, a good portion of that blame. Obviously, a massive part goes to Greg Roman, who's now gone. There's just a lot of things, the O-line, of course. So, like, you take your pick. There's a lot of blame to go around, but Herbert definitely deserves some piece of that, regardless, as great as he's been. He's definitely had his moments where he's come up short, and that's just being truthful. All right, now it's time for a little bit more of some uptone. The award ceremony. Looking at, I picked 3 players here with different awards, and the first one, of course, you guys see here is Best Rookie, and it is Oronde Gadsden Jr., who, kind of just came alive really this season after not starting for the first 3 to 4 weeks, I think it was. He really came into his own to end the season and really solidified himself as the Chargers or the future Chargers tight end, tight end of the future. That's what I'm trying to say. So obviously just kind of going off a little bit of a season stats here, 49 receptions for 664 yards, 3 touchdown catches, a nice 13.6 yards per catch. So, creating space and getting downfield, becoming a downfield threat. Like a little fun note that I gave there, only played in 15 games. So massive kudos to Oronde Gadsden, another late round gem pick by Joe Ortiz. And so I'm very excited to watch this kid and his future in the league and his future with Herbert. And, even more excited if we get a certain OC that's been rumored. So we'll see what happens there, because I think if Darren Waller can get some wide open catches like that, God only knows what can be designed for Oronde Gadsden. So I'm very excited to see what he looks like in the coming season. Biggest surprise of the season for me, it has to be Kamani Vidal. When Hampton went down week 4 with that injury, we kind of thought running game was chalked, and Kamani Vidal really held it down for some of those weeks. There was a bit of a one-off, one-on, or off-and-on week, back-to-back week. One week he'd be rush for over 100, next week he'd be under 30, the next week he'd be over 100, following week under 20. So it was very, volatile in his production, but he really, at the end of the year, when you take a total look of his season, and he did miss the last 2 games of the season, the Texans and the Broncos game with an injury. He really had, he really couldn't ask for much more from your running back 3, who was cut from the active or didn't make the 53-man roster, and, eventually comes back and really just balls out. And, you can't ask for much more from that. 779 total yards, 4 total touchdowns, 4.1 yards per carry. And personally, my favorite stat, 0 fumbles lost. He did have 1 fumble. Luckily, it was recovered by us. So, hey, take it for what it's worth. The 0 fumbles lost. Only having 1 fumble in the season as well is extremely impressive. So, surefire, able to hold it down, anchor it down. Great running back. He's also great in pass protection. So very, very excited. Hopefully, he stays on this team for a bit. That Hampton Vidal duo would be absolutely nasty. So I'm very excited to see what a full season of health, hopefully, these both can produce. And a little fun fact for him, for most of you who, are obviously diehard Chargers fans, and you follow this team like every aching moment of every day. Most of you guys know, but his great uncle is Hank Aaron. I thought that was pretty cool. A little bit of trivia, one day a trivia question. So yeah, just giving you a little fun fact for each of these guys here. And my next award is the Dark Horse MVP. Now, I was really strongly considering making this just the MVP award, but I know it was going to upset some people if it wasn't Herbert. So I wanted to get this man on here. Cameron Dicker the kicker, man. I mean, look, I get it. Okay, the Texans game really hurt, and it really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So I understand your frustration. I understand, the animosity that a lot of us had towards him following that game. But Dicker the kicker, man, I mean, he's everything you ever wanted, in a Chargers kicker. I mean, God, the days of Nate Kading and Younghoe Koo and Michael Badgley and Dustin Hopkins. I mean, I can go down the list of just kickers after kicker after kicker. And finally, we have found our franchise kicker. I mean, just reading off his season stats, 92.7%. What? 92.7% made field goals. He was 38 of 41. Only missed the 1 extra point in the Texans game, 34-35 there. 5 of 6 from 50. 148 points scored. I mean, He's the most accurate kicker of all time with at least 50 attempts. And I think he's actually the most accurate kicker of all time with 100 attempts, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, what more can you ask for, man? It's as Chargers fans, we're extremely happy to have him on our team. I get it. He had a terrible game, but I'm not going to let one game define what he's done over the course of multiple seasons, and you shouldn't either. Cameron Dicker, we love you, man. We hope you win Walter Payton Man of the Year. You are my dark horse MVP for this team for this season. All right, and wrapping things up here, we're going to dive into some quick keys for the offseason and what I want the Chargers to do, and really I think what we all want them to do. First things first, must overhaul that entire interior offensive line. Bozeman, Becton, I think it was Zion, gone. Get them out of here. I'm sorry. There's no room for them here. Say what you want about Zion. He's had his flashes. Bozeman, there's zero flashes there. He's gone. That is a must cut, a must get rid of. Becton, depends on if you bring in, a great center, a great veteran center, for namely of the Ravens. And maybe that can solidify. And with Alton Slater back, maybe you can think about running that back with Becton. You do have him on the 2-year deal, so you can, see what happens. But I wouldn't be upset with letting him walk or straight up cutting him. I think it's just time to completely reinvent that entire interior offensive line. It was absolutely brutal watching Herbert run around for his life this year and just try to will this team to wins every so often. And the defense helped a ton, don't get me wrong, but you got to score points in this league. And man, you need an offensive line to do that. And obviously, Alton Slater coming back healthy, so that'll fix a lot. But yeah, this interior offensive line needs to go. A new center, both new guards. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll kind of skip ahead to the big one in caps here. Spend that money, man. We are top 2, I think. Can be number 1 with some cuts in cap space this year. So go out in free agency. Look at what the Bears did. Look at what the Patriots did. Spend money on this offensive line. Bring in Tyler Linderbaum. Bring in some guards. I mean, you have your tackle set. I wouldn't even mind paying some decent money for a nice swing tackle. Just build that depth up. We need to get this line right, man. And you have the money to do it this year. You have the draft picks to do it and the draft capital. Make it happen. Protect Herbert. Harbaugh, you came in saying you need to protect Herbert and we need to keep him upright. Well, we haven't seen it for this last season. We saw it a little bit in the first season, and then it unraveled towards the end. But I really want to see you stick to that promise and about keeping Herbert upright. And the final one, I should have put this one last night. I think about it, but here we are. Hire Mike McDaniel already. What the hell are we waiting for? All these reports about Mike McDaniel is set to become the Chargers offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel tells other teams he's uninterested in the head coaching opportunities because he's going to be offensive coordinator for Herbert. Everything but the Chargers have signed Mike McDaniel to be their offensive coordinator. Make it happen. Give him a blank check. I don't care. He may only be here for a year. Give him great money to be here for a year and let him work with Herbert, man. Oh my God. If you can make Tua throw for 5,000 yards in a season, imagine what you can do with Herbert. Imagine what you can do with these young wide receivers, the young tight end, the young running back. I mean, dude, this is just a match made in heaven. And I keep, all the reports are, yes, he's going to be with them and everybody's already talking like he is. But man, until I see pen to paper, until I see that tweet, Mike McDaniel has officially signed as the Chargers OC. I'm still going to hold back a little bit of reserve. So let's make it happen, Chargers. Get him signed today. And with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to check out myself and my fellow Hit Squad members and their socials down below. Mike Dub, the Commanders Insider, the Real AG, Alex Gibbons, your Chiefs Insider, and of course, myself, Young RG, Robert Garcia, your Chargers Insider. Also, be sure to check out the Lockdown Defense Sports Network and all of our different connections. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and of course, Gmail. Comment down below as well, guys. Comment, like this video. Tell me what you think about this Chargers season. Tell me where you think I was wrong. Give me some of your award winners. Make up some new categories in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys and chat ball in the comments down below. And as always, we always thank you guys. We do this for you. I'm gone now. We do this for you. We make these videos for you. We love football. We love talking ball. So please comment down below, guys. We want to hear what you think. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.